Well, you hear me say everything is spiritual over and over and over, don't you? So it might be a logical question right here, right now, to ask, what is spiritual about being up at Grayson, Highlands State Park in Virginia? And it's about, 1:30 in the afternoon. The sun's shining, but it is 34 degrees. And the wind's blowing from that direction, which is about north, give or take. And it's blowing 10 miles an hour, gusting up to 20. So the wind chill, according to the little telltale I've got in the car, is 23 degrees. It's chilly up here. But it is spiritual. Not just this stunning view. And it is an incredibly stunning view looking out across the valley in Grayson County, Virginia. And that ridge line down way in the distance is just over the state line back into North Carolina into Ashe County. Absolutely stunning. And walking around and driving up here in all the shadows, there's snow on the ground. It snowed overnight last night, just a dusting. But it got really, really cold. And here we are the week after Easter. And Judy has already asked me in a text, well, I love you dearly, but I'm glad I'm not there with you. I hope you're having fun. Well, I am. But it's more than just that. There's the idea that it came to me coming up here of sharing a little bit why I do this. Not just for the views. Obviously that. I love the mountains. I love having the opportunity to go camp and do things. But there's more to it than that. When you start to combine in this idea of everything being spiritual, there's something that's both simpler and more profound for me coming up here. For you, it might be something different. But I think for all of us, we need to find an opportunity, find a way on a regular basis to do what we used to remember from high school and church, go on retreat. We used to think about it twice a year, right? And the whole youth group bundled into vans or buses and took off and played games on Saturday and listened to Bible study and had the talk around the campfire. But when you read the Gospels, if you pay attention, you'll see that it was a regular thing. That Jesus came out here. He went somewhere, quiet, alone. There was time spent in solitude, in prayer, in meditation. Not just the temptation in the wilderness. But as you read through the Gospels, you regularly see, well, Jesus went away up the mountain by himself. Or he took his disciples and they withdrew from the crowd and went somewhere. There was this intentionality in breaking away from the routine. And that's something I want to parse through and think about a little bit with you. But I got to tell you, I didn't bring heavy gloves. I didn't bring a toboggan cap. I was thinking, it's spring. No big deal. Well, I am about 5,500 feet in elevation, and it's open here. The wind is really blowing, and it's cold. So I'm going to have to pick up the rest of it back at camp. But it kind of asks, and I hope it answers the question, why do I go camping when I can squeeze in a day and a half or two? And why do I go places like this where I can be alone? It's because it's spiritual in a way that works for me. And what I hope to do is pose the question for you, what is it that'll work for you? Because I think if we take the Gospels repeated showing us that Jesus did this on a regular basis, maybe that's a clue we should pay attention and do it ourselves. That's the idea. We'll pick it up again that way, back across the state line, down in camp. I'll catch up with you there and we'll talk some more about it then, okay? Because I'm going to get out of the cold. But it's a gorgeous day. Happy Easter. We're still in the season. And how can someone not believe in a God when you see a vista like this, even if it is cold? So, catch up in a few. We'll see you then, okay? Well, it's amazing what about 1,800 feet elevation down, lowering elevation, some trees to block the wind, the late afternoon sun, it makes a big difference. Back here at New River State Park, it's nowhere near as cold as it was up on Grayson Highlands. It was absolutely stunning vistas up there. But 32, 33 degrees, and the wind howling like it was, it's just not fun. But it's been about 3.5, maybe 4 hours elapsed, and I don't even remember if I was getting to the point or not, so I may repeat myself. Not too long ago, a person that I know fairly well, not all that well, he said, I want to ask you an honest question. He said, when you go camping by yourself, why do you do it? He goes, don't you get bored? You're all alone. And I said, on the contrary. I said, if you really boil it down, I take every opportunity, a day here, 2 days, whatever it is, to come up here to keep my soul alive. And that's not hyperbole, really. This is a chance, literally, to retreat. I come up and I got a TV in the camper, but I hardly ever turn it on. The antenna's old and it doesn't work very well, so there's nothing much I want to listen to. I turn the radio off. I might check email, maybe. One of the beautiful godsends about a place like this is there's no internet connection and there's very little cell coverage. So except for driving somewhere where I've got a connection and I can check in with Judy and let her know, yep, I'm alive, I'm okay. And I do that every 24 hours. Other than that, I come up here to be quiet and to listen. To listen to the wind whisper through the trees, to listen to it howl across the bald highlands like it was earlier, to look at the blue sky or even the snow this morning, and let the quiet calmness of this restore my soul. I literally mean that. It's the week after Easter, and I've been traditionally doing this for going on 30, 35 years. You get through Holy Week, and it's a busy time. Whether it's one church, two churches, whether it's a large church, small church, Lent and Holy Week really takes a lot out of you. I might like the fire, but I don't like the smoke. You get to the end of it, and you need to go, whether you call it recharge, restore, retreat. You need to get away, clear your head a little bit. And I was saying earlier up on Grayson Highlands, the model for that is biblical. Jesus did it all the time. Whether it was just with himself or with the disciples, he might feed 5,000 people. He might heal people nonstop on the shores of Capernaum or at Peter's house, or wherever they brought the sick and the lame, the blind to him. But he would retreat either at night, early in the morning. He would go off alone. And I can't help but believe that's intentional in the Gospels for us to remember life is too fast, and we've made it that way. We need to slow down intentionally to feed our souls. And this does it for me. Things get remarkably simple when I come camping, whether it's with the camper, which is a whole different level than when I was backpacking. And I don't know if it would bother me to just grab a sleeping bag and a tent and a couple of meals and go backpacking. Judy has said no way, those days are done for her. But even with having our kitchen, our bathroom, our dining room and bedroom right here in this 25-foot, 170 square foot box, life gets really simple. Stay warm, stay clean, stay fed. get stuff done before dark, because it gets really, really dark out here. It boils down to the basics. And in all of that, you've got layered over it quiet. You can read, you can think, you can listen. And I do believe in the wind and sometimes the trickling water, like where I was this afternoon paddling. You can hear God's voice if you listen. Frankly, it's interesting, and this happens all the time. This isn't the bonus sermon I was thinking about. You've heard that before, haven't you? It occurred to me as soon as I got out of Charlotte on Easter Sunday, and I lost the radio station, and my first thought was, oh, let's find another radio station, or let's listen to something that I've got stored on the phone. And I thought, no, let's cut the radio off. And I rolled the windows down a little bit, and I listened to the wind blowing as I was driving up. And let that be sort of the overlay into slowing down intentionally. This works for me. And every couple of months, if I can take my day off and maybe attach a Sunday night and maybe, half a day as well, and squeeze in 2.5 days, I've got 60 hours or so of decompression, of unpacking, of letting life that's too rushed and too hurried and too many problems and too many clogged roadways around town. I can let all that rub off on me, and I can once again rediscover the sanity that God wants us to have. This is how I do it. So this is why I come up here alone. Some people, it won't work for them. I've got a friend who, he lives in New York, and he doesn't own a car, and he is a committed city person. How Tom does it, I don't know. I can't imagine it. If I had to live with 8 million people surrounding me in Manhattan, and that were all of my life, I would lose it, I'm sure. But it works for him. He doesn't drive, so he can't really go camping real easily. But he makes a habit, at least once a week, that he takes an afternoon or a morning, and he intentionally goes to a park, Central Park, sometimes other parks. There's a couple of parks down in the financial district near the World Trade Center Memorial. I don't know the names of them. But he doesn't just go and walk through the park like we would go walk through Freedom Park and go, oh, wasn't that nice? Let's go. He goes and he spends half a day there, intentionally. Takes a book, not work related, and he packs into 3 or 3.5 hours the same thing for his soul that I do in 2.5 days. It's that idea of life gets busy, we slow down. We got a lot to do, we take some time. Linda Carpenter has told me that she and Daryl are just, they're hanging on by their fingernails looking to the first week of May. They're going to the beach. They're going for the whole week. And that's the time that they're ready to go feed their souls. For them, work-related, scheduling, maybe they can't do it for a couple of days every month. However it works, the thing that I think is a biblical model for us is we find something that works. Something that feeds our soul. Something that intentionally allows us to boil things down to the basics and let the world kind of shrink in and intentionally make it simple and then let God be there in that. The very first sermon text that I ever wrote for a grade, I had to preach it orally, but that was step 2. The first thing we had to do was write out a text for the professor and use a theme and then relate the theme to a biblical passage. So I used the theme, and this was in 1981. And you might remember back then on TV, Honda Motor Company was using the advertising slogan, Honda, we keep it simple. That's not necessarily true anymore. I mean, you look at the late model Accords and Civics and things like that, and there's nothing really simple about that. But back in the early 80s, if you drove a Civic or Accord, that was a pretty simple car. So I cut out of a magazine the little block letters, Honda, we keep it simple. And my theme was the gospel. God keeps it simple. Which is true. The gospel message is so clear. Jesus said, I'm the life. I am the resurrection. In me, even though we die, we still live. God so loved the world, He gave us His Son. It's not complicated at all. Well, the professor, Dr. Hughes was his name. I don't remember his first name. He was a visiting professor from a seminary in Pennsylvania. I've kind of racked my brain. I can't remember. Was it Bethel Seminary or maybe Reformed Seminary outside of Philadelphia? He may have come from Hood Theological. Princeton and other seminaries from time to time would have professors they'd share. They would be a visiting professor for a semester or two. And just the luck of the draw, he was my homiletics teacher that first semester. And he bled all over the text of the sermon and critiqued it pretty heavily. But he did say, he said, I like your idea. He said, the idea is good. And all the technical stuff he sort of went into with the exegesis and all of that. He said, but don't misunderstand, complicated and complex are not the same thing. As a matter of fact, God is very, very complex. Look at creation in its infinite beauty and variety. You can't find anything more complex than that. But that doesn't mean it's complicated. That's something we humans tend to create. And that's something that stands against the simpleness of the gospel, the simplicity of the message. It can be very complex and simple at the same time, but it doesn't have to be overly complicated. And the two words are related, but they do have differing definitions. You might find it interesting. Go online and look at some of the differences. Then again, you might say, that's something Roger would do. I'm not going to bother. Either way, it gets simple when you're out here. I'll have to get clean later on tonight because I'm going to smell like smoke and I won't sleep very well stinking like smoke. But at the same time, I get to enjoy the campfire as the sun sets and as I get ready to eat dinner. And I'll stay warm because it's going to get cold again tonight. And the wind picks up and all that jazz. That's just part of it. But in doing so for another night, I get to feed my soul for another 14, 15 hours until I hook up and pull out of here and head home enough to dump the camper and then go into the office and take care of some stuff that has to be done and get ready for the rest of the week. Rhythms. That's what it's all about. And coming up here, we get to unpack, unwind, decompress. There's a great movie clip, a movie that didn't go very far on TV. I think it was on TV or streaming. It's about a nuclear submarine, an end of the world type thing. But at one point, this nuclear submarine rescues some Navy SEALs. Their mission had gone awry, and the subsurfaces these guys get on. A couple of them are wounded very badly. And the chief of the boat, the chief petty officer, they call him Cobb. When the captain and the executive officer are coming down the ladders, coming to check on these guys, they pick up and they brought down the hatch. The Cobb comes over to them and says, be careful what you do. These boys are wound real tight. I might have to put that clip in with the final edit so you can see it.
Careful with these boys. They're wound tight.
We all get that way from time to time. It's part of life. It's part of the cost of doing business in a fallen world, I think. Finding whatever it is that allows us to loosen that up. Let us hear God's voice again. Let us find some kind of natural rhythm, the simplicity of life again. If we don't do it, I think we put our souls in jeopardy. I really do. So I'm up here feeding my soul and having a good time while I do it. I've missed everybody, but I'll see you before long. And I hope this jogs your thinking about, if you need to, how you can do the exact same thing for your own soul. Maybe it is just a walk in the park. Maybe it's a once a week play date with your dog or dogs. Maybe it's every 3 months when you can get away for a full week, 10 days. Whatever it is, however you do it, make sure you do it. It's important. It really, really is important. That's enough. I'm going to throw some more wood on the fire. Get ready for dinner. I will see you when I see you. So stay warm, stay dry, stay fed and clean, and God bless you. I'll see you when I do.